So I'm confused as to what was that supposed to accomplish? I told myself that I was not going to comment on this. I told myself that black people, white people, orange people, pink people with blue polka dots. I got beat when I was a kid. And when I watched that, it brought back a lot of memories. And I don't recall chuckling one time looking at that. And maybe it's because I'm a woman and, I don't even know how I got on this. I saw the dad was indicted for corporal punishment, as he should be, because that's retarded. And, I posted it on my Facebook and I just kept it real thoughts, as I often do, thoughts. I just wanted to know what other people were thinking. I guess I already knew what other people were thinking. And most people, the response was, wow, great parenting. In what culture? Is this 1842 antebellum South? That was a Jim Crow beating. That was slavery. He even used a whip, like a homemade television style whip. Okay. Some people are saying that these girls were twerking, and posting twerking videos and what have you. And the father found out, and so he beat them to slavedom. And the girls said in the official police report, I'm going to assume it was reported in the news, that they were beaten back to antebellum South because they left the house, or I don't know, whatever the case. I'm a parent. I have been a parent for 7 years. When I first had her, I was fully invested in the idea that the fact that I was beaten, sometimes brutally, as a child, was a justification of it works. Because I felt like, well, I turned out okay, as lots of people like to use as their justification for corporal punishment. It sounds like a disease, actually. Like your arm fell off, corporal, whatever. So the point I'm making here, and I'm not coming at, my parents, I'm not coming at I'm not coming at anybody's neck who has used spankings or beatings as a form of discipline. That is not what I'm doing here. I believe firmly, and this is where the spirit sense comes in, prayerfully, that people do the best they can with what they have. If you were beaten as a child as a form of discipline, you have been given the tools to believe, unless you switch something off, that is the best way to discipline your child, especially if you believe that you turned out okay. The problem with that philosophy is there are lots of people who don't turn out okay, and that the science is actually in, the studies are actually in, that corporal punishment actually does more harm than it does good. I read an article on Clutch magazine. It's by Kristen Westavalle. It's titled, Why Some Black People Ignore the Negative Research on Spanking. There have been a plethora of studies done to show the long-standing emotional and psychological effects of corporal punishment, including the following study conducted by psychologist Elizabeth Thompson-Gershaft, PhD of the National Center for Children in Poverty at Columbia University. While conducting the meta-analysis, which included 62 years of collected data, Gershoff looked for associations between parental use of corporal punishment and 11 child behaviors and experiences. Gershoff found strong associations between corporal punishment and all 11 child behaviors and experiences. 10 of the associations were negative, such as with increased child aggression and antisocial behavior. The single desirable association was between corporal punishment and increased immediate compliance on the part of the child. I have honestly never seen a study that found corporal punishment to have long-term positive effects. Not one. I've heard anecdotes, spare the rod, spoil the child, but no formal studies. I find it no small coincidence that in the Deep South, the place that most condones corporal punishment as a form of discipline, Black people are statistically less educated, have less money, less property, and are discriminated against in the judicial system to astronomical levels. I hate to beat the bearer of bad news, but it doesn't seem like the rod is working out too well. I understand that many children of this generation seem to be out of control, but I'm honestly baffled by how many of us have to come to the conclusion that it's from a lack of hitting, with corporal punishment currently occurring primarily in homes battling the intersection of race and class, and the vast majority of people in the Black community still believing strongly that it's effective. I would be hard-pressed to pinpoint lack of hitting children as a reason why young people seem to be more disrespectful. More like lack of parenting, period. It is my opinion that many of our children are victims to overexposure, unhealthy families, and lack of discipline, which again is not synonymous with hitting. You read this other article on Clutch? And in it, the author was asking this question: why is it okay to beat your daughters, but it's not okay to beat your wife or your girlfriend? Everybody would go, oh, Pearl's clutching. Oh my God. Oh, he beat his girlfriend like a slave. He beat his wife like a slave. Throw him under the jail. But for these two little girls who are little women, it's okay because it's discipline. See, this is what we got fucked up. For whatever reason, we have come to this determination that children are not people, that they are they're not really human. They're just kind of like, they're our property. Like, we give birth to them, they belong to us, we can do with them what we will. That's my child. I can do with my child whatever I want to do. Lots of us have anger issues, let's be clear, and we take them out on whoever's handy, and most of the time it's our kids. And the problem with that is that our kids walk around with the wounds of our bullshit because we don't know how to control ourselves. Most kids don't get beat because it's discipline. They get beat because the parent feels somehow disrespected. And guess what? Your disrespect is your ego. If you understand a child is a child, they're a small person learning how to be a big person, and they're going to make mistakes. Why does their mistake somehow affect you in such a way that they need to get beat to a bloody pulp? I don't understand it. I never understood it. And so as I became evolved into my parentals, I came to understand that it doesn't make any sense. It's very effective to talk to my child like she's a person and to give her choices like she's a person. You know why? Because as she gets older, if I've made all the choices for her and she makes no mistakes, and if she feels like if she makes a mistake, I beat her ass to the point of ridiculousness, guess what? When she becomes an adult, she doesn't know how to make choices without being scared. You want to know why so many people can't make simple choices in their lives, and good ones? Because they were never equipped with the tools to be able to do them as children. Because every single thing was somehow a slight to the person that was supposed to be raising them. It is a personal slight if you make a mistake. Meanwhile, we all make mistakes. That's how we learn. We don't beat babies for not being able to walk properly when they're first starting out. They fall down. Imagine what a baby would do with walking if every time they fell, they got their ass beat to a bloody pulp. But that's essentially what we're doing with our kids, and we're calling it parenting, and we're calling it discipline. These girls are not doing the right thing. Well, guess what? A good sit down needs to happen. I'm not saying don't discipline your kids. I'm not saying don't have rules and standards, but disrespecting their bodies, basically treating them like they aren't important, that our ego is more important than their person, that's where we got it fucked up. That doesn't make any spirit sense. We're all spiritual beings. Our kids come through us. It is our job to raise them up, not beat them down. I don't give a shit what you think the Bible says. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Well, guess what? There are a lot of spoiled children that get beat all the time. And guess what? They're walking the planet, beating on other people and shooting up other people. And I'm not coming at anybody's neck. But it's time for us to reframe the conversations we have with ourselves. If you think this kind of behavior, like this is good parenting, you know what? I'm not here to argue with you. Believe what you need to. But I'm a firm believer that we're all only as strong as our weakest links. And hurt people hurt people. We keep abusing our kids and calling it fucking rain. It's not discipline. It's not discipline if at the end of the day, the only thing that we get out of it is they do what we say at that moment. Because I'll tell you what, I got my ass beat all the time and I still did every single thing I wanted to do. A beating did not deter me from anything. And that's the raw of it. That's the raw of it. I felt like even as a child, I felt like it was lazy. I felt like rather than respecting me as a human being, you're going to demand respect from me through fear. You're not going to get it that way. You're not going to pull respect out of me. Either you have it or you don't. And it is a mutual thing. If you don't respect me, as in you don't respect my body, there's no way logically I can respect you. I might be able to fear you for that moment, but it's not long lasting. Because as soon as I'm not in your face, I'm doing exactly what I want to do. It's time to reframe the paradigms and our thinkings about the things that we do. We got beatings from slavery. When we were on plantations in the antebellum South and Massa wanted us to behave, what did he do? He whooped us. When we attempted to read and think for ourselves, what did he do? He whipped us. When we tried to run away and assert our autonomy and Massa's overseer caught us, what did he do? He whipped us. When Massa said we were being disrespectful, what did he do? He whipped us. To keep us in line, working hard and obedient, he whipped us. And that is the exact same thing that we do to our children. We're hurting our kids and wondering why they're hurting other people. You want to know why our kids walk the planet the way they do? Why there's so much anger and viciousness out there and bullying out in the world? Check your home. It starts there. If you want respect, give it. Respect the fact that your kids come out of your vagina or from your seed, but they're not yours. They're theirs. They are their own people, their own personalities. They have their own ideas, and their own ideas should be respected. If you don't like a child's choice, yes, as their parent, it's your job to guide them, but it's not your job to break them. That's what you do with horses, and that's not even effective. We got to do better. Seriously. My hope is that with the overwhelming evidence against corporal punishment, more parents will at the very least consider alternative forms of punishment. I want us to begin to trust ourselves as parents and not rely on a belt to raise our children. More importantly, I want us to look at the root of corporal punishment, then examine where, how, and when has it been beneficial. If at the end of the day, parents still choose to whip, spank, and slap their children to safety and success, at least they put in due diligence and weighed other options before deciding what's best for their children, instead of assuming what's most effective because of generations of spare the rod. That's all I'm saying. Think. Just take a minute, breathe, and think. What did it feel like when you were beaten? What did it feel like to you? If you didn't like it and you can go through your life and say, you know what, it didn't help anything, it didn't solve anything, why are we abusing our kids and calling it rain? And I am a firm believer, watched the last video, I'm a firm believer in meditation. And I feel like if we can bring ourselves to a space where we recognize what we are fundamentally, everything in our lives becomes different. We make different choices. We make conscious choices. And I think parenting is no different. We cannot forget that the children we are raising are going to be the children raising other children. And abuse, no matter what it looks like, no matter what we call it, it's a cipher. Hurt people, and those people hurt people until somebody breaks the cycle. And I believe the cycle breaker is us. When we know better, we do better. And again, I'm not coming at any parent's neck. I'm not trying to tell you you're a bad parent. I'm not saying you don't love your kids. I'm just saying that the tools that sometimes we use are outdated. Remember where those tools came from. Those were slave methods of breaking human beings. And they weren't all that effective then. They kept people in line for a time, and there were some revolts that weren't pretty. And I believe, in a spiritual sense, our kids are revolting. And there's nothing worse than an anarchy with no purpose. Yes, I am very passionate about this. I have sounded off, but now it is your turn. So this is our Spirit Sense Life Ponderance Question of the day. What are some alternative methods that we can use to discipline unruly children? What can we do differently? How can we reframe the conversations that we're having about corporal punishment, about spanking? Why do we use spanking as a blanket for everything? What can we do differently? How can we better be a part of our children's lives and more influential in their lives so they make choices that are more conducive to the kinds of beings we want walking the planet? And when we see other parents who are in distress, how can we better help? How can we really turn this thing into a village? It takes a village to raise a child. I certainly am not raising my child by myself. It takes a village. So how do we all come together and help parents who are in distress or who have limited tools to open up their breath, to open up their understanding differently so that they can make different, healthy choices that benefit not only them, but benefits their children and generations of children after them. We don't want more people walking the planet hurting people. And that's the key here. To me, the litmus test of any discipline is the outcome, is your child healthy, happy, and more conscious at the end of it? Do they, at the end of this discipline, do they make different choices from this point forth? Or are they still making the same choices because they didn't learn anything and the cycle continues? So that is our life ponderance question. I have ranted on for 100 hours on this one, but I think it's an important discussion to have, so it's totally worth it. Put your comments in the comment section. That's where they go. And if you're really especially jiggy, you are welcome to respond with a video response. I love those. Those are fun. Bye. Stop beating your kids. It hurts. Love you madly.